In this video, we will explore 5 real stories of female solo travelers who vanished without a trace. Each case is a haunting mystery, filled with unanswered questions and eerie details. We'll look into the last known moments of these women, the searches that followed, and the chilling unknowns that remain. Join us as we dive into these disturbing disappearances that continue to baffle authorities and haunt families. It was July 13, 2020, when Jean Teague was last seen leaving the Help Yourself hostel in Paredes, Portugal. Jean, a 38-year-old woman from County Cavan, Ireland, had her handbag but left her passport and most of her belongings behind. This unusual detail puzzled her family and investigators. Jean was an experienced traveler, often taking trips with little notice. Her family, used to her independent nature, didn't worry at first when they didn't hear from her. It wasn't until January 2021, 6 months later, that her family reported her missing. By then, Jean's social media accounts had shown activity, adding to the confusion. On the day Jean disappeared, she was seen leaving with a man who spoke with a Brazilian accent. This man has never been identified and remains a key figure in the mystery. Jean's sister, Leona Teague, believes this man might be the last person to have seen Jean alive. Leona's search for her sister has been exhausting. Living in New York and working as a nurse, Leona has balanced her job with searching for information. She has made several trips to Portugal, speaking with locals, but her efforts have largely been in vain. Portuguese authorities have been slow, only listing Jean as a missing person 3 years after she vanished. Leona remembers the last communication with her sister. On July 13th, Jean called her, but Leona missed the call. She texted back asking if everything was okay. Jean replied, "Yes, fine." Those would be the last words she would hear from her sister. Jean had a return ticket to Dublin booked for July 15th, but she never boarded the flight. Instead, she disappeared without a trace, leaving her family in anguish. The Teague family hired a private investigator, who confirmed that Jean left the hostel with the Brazilian man, but found little else. The hostel staff remembered Jean leaving but didn't know the man's identity or where they went. One of the most puzzling aspects of Jean's disappearance is the activity on her social media accounts. Her Instagram and Facebook were active until February 2021, 7 months after she was last seen. Posts were made, messages were sent, and the accounts appeared in use. But Leona and her family believe it wasn't Jean. They suspect someone else had access to her accounts, adding another layer of mystery. Jean's ex-boyfriend, Shoy Kitamba, who first reported her missing to Portuguese police, was found dead in his apartment in Alcabideche near Paredes. His death added a dark twist to the story, but it remains unclear if it is connected to Jean's disappearance. Leona has expressed deep frustration with the authorities. She believes there has been a lack of urgency from both the Portuguese police and Guarda Síocana in Ireland. Access to Jean's social media and bank accounts could provide crucial information, but bureaucratic hurdles have delayed the process. Meta, the parent company of Facebook and Instagram, is willing to help but needs a formal letter from the authorities, which has not yet been provided. Leona's efforts to raise awareness about her sister's case include participating in podcasts and media interviews. She hopes that by keeping Jean's story in the public eye, someone with information will come forward. The family's Facebook page dedicated to Jean's search has received messages from people worldwide, some sharing their own experiences of finding missing loved ones after years. Despite the challenges, Leona remains hopeful. She believes that someone out there knows what happened to Jean and that her sister's case can still be solved. She has called on the Irish government to push for answers and hold the Portuguese authorities accountable for their slow response. The lack of progress has taken a toll on the Teague family. They are stuck in limbo, unable to grieve properly without knowing what happened to Jean. The uncertainty has been devastating, and Leona fears that some family members cannot go on much longer without closure. Leona has also questioned the thoroughness of the investigation. She wants to know why certain leads, like the dating app Jean was using, haven't been fully explored. She believes this could be key to understanding what happened to her sister. People meet others through these apps all the time, and it seems like an obvious place to start. It was late December 2023 when Ana Gnezovic, a 40-year-old native of Colombia, boarded a flight from Fort Lauderdale to Madrid. Ana had left her husband, David Gnezovic, back in Florida amidst a bitter divorce. Ana hoped that Spain would be a new beginning, far away from the conflicts with her estranged husband. Ana's life in Madrid started off positively. She loved the vibrant culture and atmosphere of the city and quickly settled into her new apartment. Ana even began dating again, messaging friends and family about her excitement for her new life. But as the days went by, her communications became less frequent. On February 2, 2024, Ana was seen on security footage entering her apartment around 2:30 p.m. That night, she made a call to a friend, sounding normal and cheerful. However, it would be the last time anyone heard from her. The next morning, friends received strange messages from Ana's phone. The text claimed she had met a wonderful man and was going to spend time with him in a remote area with little cell service. The messages were uncharacteristic and caused immediate concern among her loved ones. The concern turned to alarm when Ana's brother, Felipe Henao, and her best friend, Sana Ramo, could not reach her. Felipe, who was very close to Ana, knew something was terribly wrong. He contacted Spanish authorities, sparking a multinational investigation involving the FBI, Spain's national police, and authorities from Colombia and Serbia. The investigation quickly focused on David Nezovic, Ana's estranged husband. David, 36, had a complicated relationship with Ana. The couple managed EOX Technology Solutions Incorporated, a computer support business, and owned several properties in Florida. Their divorce was a mess, particularly over the division of their significant assets, which included properties worth millions of dollars. David's movements before and after Ana's disappearance were suspicious. He flew from Miami to Istanbul on January 27th, then traveled to Serbia, where he rented a Peugeot 308 on January 29th. He drove over 4,800 miles in the following days, a distance that would allow him to reach Madrid from Belgrade and back multiple times. Security footage from February 2nd showed a man resembling David buying spray paint and duct tape in a Madrid store. That same evening, a man wearing a motorcycle helmet was seen entering Ana's apartment building and spraying over the lens of a security camera. An hour later, the man was seen leaving with a suitcase. Authorities also found that David had asked a Colombian woman he met on a dating app to translate a message into perfect Colombian Spanish. The translated message was sent from Ana's phone to her friends the day after she disappeared, further arousing suspicion. David was arrested at Miami International Airport on May 4, 2024, by FBI agents when he returned from Serbia. Charged with kidnapping, he was denied bond due to the flight risk posed by his wealth and international connections. David, who protested his innocence, claimed he was in Serbia at the time of Ana's disappearance. Ana's family held a press conference on May 9th, expressing their heartbreak and hope for her safe return. Her brother Felipe, visibly distressed, urged anyone with information to come forward. Despite the months that had passed since Ana was last seen, the family remained hopeful that authorities would uncover the truth. The FBI's detailed complaint against David laid out the circumstantial evidence suggesting his involvement in Ana's disappearance. But without Ana's body or definitive proof of her fate, many questions remained unanswered. The evidence is compelling but not conclusive. Security footage, suspicious messages, and David's bizarre travel itinerary all point to his involvement, yet they do not provide a complete picture. Ana's family continues to search for answers, clinging to the hope that she may still be alive somewhere. The investigation is ongoing, with authorities from multiple countries working tirelessly to uncover the truth. But until Ana is found, either alive or deceased, her disappearance remains a haunting mystery. On December 12, 2018, Carla Valpeos's roommate at the Paraguana hostel in Cusco, Peru, woke up to find Carla missing. Carla, a 35-year-old legally blind woman from Detroit, was traveling extensively before losing her vision completely to a degenerative eye condition. She had come to Peru for a friend's wedding and to celebrate her 35th birthday, achieving her dream of climbing Machu Picchu's highest peak on December 11th. Carla had joined a tour group to explore Machu Picchu. Despite her visual impairment, she was determined to experience the site fully, and photos captured her smiling at the peak. That night, the group returned to Cusco and celebrated at a local club. Carla shared her hostel room with a woman from the tour group. The next morning, her roommate noticed her absence around 9:30 a.m., and Carla's last communication was a WhatsApp message around 10 a.m., discussing plans to visit a museum. Carla's sudden disappearance caused immediate concern. Her family, especially her brother Carlos Valpeos, was deeply worried since she always kept in touch during her travels. Carlos, living in Brooklyn, New York with their father, Carlos Sr., quickly took action. Carlos Sr. traveled to Peru to join the search efforts. The initial investigation revealed that Carla had taken a taxi on the morning of December 12th. Security footage showed her getting into a cab, and police believe she was heading to a transportation hub in Cusco to catch a bus or shuttle for sightseeing. Her exact destination remained unclear, but she had shown interest in exploring more of the area. Carla was an experienced solo traveler, having visited countries like Yemen, Egypt, and Papua New Guinea. She was an advocate for the visually impaired and had authored a travel book titled Visionless Adventures. Her family knew she wouldn't just disappear without a trace. She had planned to meet a friend, Alicia Steele, at the Lima airport on December 15th to fly back to Michigan. When Carla failed to show up, Alicia reported her missing and canceled her flight to help with the search. Carlos Sr. searched the Sacred Valley, a remote area of the Peruvian Andes, distributing flyers, interviewing locals, and exploring cornfields and caves. Living on savings and donations, he stayed in small hotels and ate minimally, driven by the hope of finding Carla. Several theories emerged during the investigation. One suggested Carla had an accident in the Pisac Archaeological Park, a site she had expressed interest in visiting. Another theory, supported by her family, involved foul play. Carlos Jr. believed an opportunist might have targeted his sister for robbery or assault, leading to her disappearance. He suspected her body could be buried in the Sacred Valley Mountains. The family criticized the Peruvian police's handling of the case, describing their efforts as disorganized. They pushed for more involvement from the U.S. government, hoping the FBI would collaborate with Peruvian authorities. Carlos Sr.'s search efforts included tracking down people who had met Carla before her disappearance, retrieving her backpack from the hostel, and requesting surveillance footage. He worked with local police to search suspected drug houses, hoping for any clue that could lead to Carla. A significant piece of evidence was a video from Pisac, showing Carla walking quickly with her green day pack and white cane about an hour after leaving her hostel. This footage, along with witness reports, indicated she was heading toward the Pisac Archaeological Park. Despite extensive searches involving drones, cadaver dogs, and rescue teams, no trace of Carla was found in the park. Over time, police developed a new theory. Carla might have been lured to one of the many ritual sites in the region, where tourists often try ayahuasca, a powerful hallucinogenic potion. Carla's family denied this, insisting she would not have willingly taken drugs. They believed she was a victim of a crime, possibly involving assault, kidnapping, or human trafficking. Carlos Jr. and his father continued their independent investigation, gathering clues and following leads. They were frustrated by the lack of progress and the slow response from both Peruvian and U.S. authorities. Despite the odds, they remained determined to find Carla and bring her home. In April 2010, 23-year-old American Aubrey Caroline Sacco was on the final phase of her 5-month journey through South Asia. After visiting India and Sri Lanka, she decided to end her trip with a solo trek in Nepal's Himalayas. Aubrey, an adventurous and free-spirited young woman with a degree in art and psychology from the University of Colorado, had spent her time in Sri Lanka searching for octopus, volunteering at an orphanage, and studying yoga in India. After a visit to Darjeeling, India, she headed to Nepal. Aubrey told her family she would be hiking in Langtang National Park, near the Tibetan border, and would check in with them in a few days. She was usually in close contact with her parents during her travels. On April 21, 2010, she began her solo hike. Her mother, Connie, expected to hear from her by April 30th. When the day passed without contact, her family grew worried. By early May, Connie contacted the U.S. Embassy in Kathmandu. Embassy officials suggested that civil unrest, specifically a Maoist uprising, might have delayed Aubrey in the mountains. On May 16th, Aubrey's father, Paul, and her elder brother, Crofton, flew to Kathmandu to search for her. Aubrey was last seen in Langtang village on April 22nd, about 35 miles north of Kathmandu. Initially, villagers said Aubrey had left in the afternoon, but later some claimed they hadn't seen her at all. Scott McLennan, an American who led medical trips in Langtang, joined the search. He suspected Aubrey might have fallen victim to young Army soldiers known for abusing women. He noted that local girls avoided staying near Army posts due to safety concerns. There were other, more unusual theories. A Dutch expat in Pokhara suggested Aubrey's disappearance was a sacrificial act by witches. Some locals speculated that her open and friendly demeanor might have led to her rape and murder. Other theories included abduction by sex traffickers or being held in a remote monastery. A teenage psychic claimed that 3 boys buried her beneath rocks near the forest. Another possibility was that Aubrey fell into the river. The trail she followed crossed steep banks and the water several times, making it dangerous. The Sacco family traveled to Nepal multiple times, trying to locate Aubrey with the help of local contacts, key politicians from Colorado, and even the FBI. Despite extensive searches around Langtang, no signs of Aubrey or her remains were found. Connie Sacco grew suspicious of the authorities' refusal to use search equipment, suggesting the government and police might not want to find out what happened to Aubrey. Nepalese police defended their actions, saying they had scoured the area and sought help from witch doctors. In April 2013, Paul and Connie returned to Nepal for a 3rd time. They learned from witnesses that soldiers were reported near the Namaste tea house on the day Aubrey disappeared. 3 months later, they were informed that Aubrey's killers had been caught. On July 31, 2013, Dawa Lama, a man from Langtang, told them that police had arrested 3 men who confessed to murdering Aubrey. U.S. Embassy official Patrick McNeil learned that an undercover Nepali police officer had befriended a man who confessed to Aubrey's murder and implicated 2 accomplices. The Nepali newspaper Republica reported that one suspect had Aubrey's camera, and pieces of her clothing were found in another suspect's home. All 3 men were arrested. However, on August 1st, the family learned that the Nepali police inspector doubted the informant, who had changed his story. Based on no physical evidence, the 3 suspects were released after 28 days in custody. No further arrests were made and the case went cold. When a devastating earthquake hit Langtang in April 2015, killing around 9,000 people and injuring another 21,000, it buried Langtang village under an avalanche. The Sacco family felt their hopes of finding Aubrey buried in the devastation. Some who might have had information about Aubrey's fate were likely dead or missing after the quake. The Sacco family continued their efforts to find Aubrey through social media and appeals to authorities, including Secretary of State Hillary Rodham Clinton. Paul Sacco found a photo on Aubrey's laptop of a man in a Darjeeling cafe who might have information about her whereabouts. Paul recorded an album titled Finding Aubrey as an outlet for his pain and a way to celebrate her life. Connie remains hopeful, despite the ongoing mystery of her daughter's disappearance and the devastation caused by the earthquake. On April 10, 2023, 60-year-old Patricia Wu Murad, known as Patty, checked out of the Mandakoro guest house in Nara, Japan. An enthusiastic hiker from Connecticut, she set out on the Kohechi route of the Kumano-Kodo Trail on Honshu, Japan's main island. Patty, who had previously hiked in Spain, France, Jordan, and Egypt, was eagerly anticipating this trip. Unfortunately, it would be the last time anyone saw her. Patty carefully planned her trip, aiming to hike an 11-mile section of the trail, estimated to take 7 to 9 hours. She was expected at her next hostel in Osaka by late afternoon. When she didn't arrive, the hostel staff reported her missing to the local police. The local police began a 72-hour search operation on April 11th, but despite their efforts, no leads were found. The search was called off on April 13th, the same day Patty's husband, Kirk Murad, received a call from the U.S. consulate. Kirk, along with their daughter Murphy and their son, flew to Japan to start their own search. Upon arrival, the family was frustrated by the lack of urgency from the local police. Despite the authorities' help, there was no clear plan of action. Kirk and his family walked the Miura Toj Pass, where Patty was supposed to hike, but found nothing. They set up a GoFundMe page raising funds to hire a private search and rescue team called Mountain Works. With the help of volunteers and donations, they coordinated the largest and longest search for an individual in Japan, but still found no clues. Kirk expressed his frustration, stating, "There's no article of clothing, no witness, no blood, there's nothing. That's the frustrating part." He criticized the slow response from local police and their limited weekend resources. The search only resumed on April 18th after intervention from the U.S. Senator Richard Blumenthal. Despite extensive efforts, the search had no results. By the time the family was notified, Patty's phone had lost battery, preventing access to her location. Japanese privacy laws further complicated efforts to retrieve data from her eSIM card, leaving Kirk and his family struggling to find any solid leads. As weeks passed, Kirk feared the worst. Kirk and Murphy focused on her phone data, hoping it might solve the mystery. They reached out to the FBI for assistance, pushing Japanese officials to retrieve data from Patty's phone. The Murad family's commitment to finding Patty didn't waver. They stayed in contact with the authorities, urging them to keep the case open. However, their financial resources were dwindling. The search had already cost over $125,000, and the family had to live on cup noodles some days to stretch their budget. Despite the mounting costs, they were determined to find her. Murphy, the main point of contact for the search efforts, coordinated with both Japanese police and private search teams. She shared updates on social media, keeping supporters informed and rallying more help. Local Japanese volunteers and global supporters contributed to the search, providing food, transportation, and even joining the search efforts. On May 7th, local authorities officially called off their search due to the lack of evidence. Despite this, Kirk and Murphy continued to push forward. He emphasized that they wouldn't give up until they had answers. The family continued to fundraise and keep the story alive in the media, hoping someone might come forward with new information. By early June, search efforts had to be suspended due to depleted funds, but the Murad family didn't lose hope. Kirk expressed his gratitude for the global support they had received. "There are so many wonderful people on this planet. This kind of restored our faith in humanity. People that we didn't even know volunteered their time. They bring us food. They drive us around. They didn't ask for anything." As the family grappled with the lack of closure, they began to focus on creating a standard procedure for search efforts when individuals go missing abroad. Kirk wanted to help others avoid the struggles they faced. "We want to find the answers. We want to find her," he said. He believed that better protocols and tools like Bluetooth location tracking devices could help prevent such disappearances in the future. Despite the overwhelming challenges, the Murad family remained hopeful. They stayed in contact with the authorities, hoping for any breakthrough that might lead them to Patty. The search was not just about finding her, but also about bringing closure to their family and ensuring that other families wouldn't have to go through the same ordeal.